What's going on, everyone? It's Sheena, aka Sheenapreneur, your favorite veteran. Today I want to talk to you about getting to a place where you don't have to bid. And we are going to talk about that right after the intro. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Here on the Sheenapreneur channel, I share information about government contracting, veteran business content, and other business tips. Okay, so what do I mean when I say getting to a place where you don't have to bid? Now, I always talk about bid on contracts, bid on contracts, bid on contracts, and I want to just kind of switch it up because when, you're bidding, some people are able to get contracts without bidding. So I just want to let you know, of course, that there's more than one way to skin a cat. If you know what that means, there's more than one way to win contracts. So the point is to get to a point where you don't have to bid on contracts. And what that means is you are actually going to work on building your relationships. So when I say building your relationship, that is several things. That means building your relationships with contracting officers. There's some people who have actually worked for the federal government and they have no type of NDA or non-compete or whatever they issue you when you actually resign from your job. And that means that as a company, you're able to, use those contacts in order to try to win a contract. So there's some people who do that, and you have to be very, very careful. Read the FAR and make sure that you have no documentation that states that you cannot communicate with anyone that you used to work with in order to obtain a contract. Be very, very careful with that. Make sure I'm putting out my disclaimer right now. So with that, you're using your relationships that you have, either if you are a federal employee, if you are already had a federal contract. There's so many people who have had federal contracts that, like, maybe they were a sub, or maybe they, just some sort of way to micro purchase, and they have relationships with contracting officers or even purchase card holders that they can build, continuously build those relationships, communicating with those contracting officers, those card holders on a regular basis in order to get, either a micro purchase or a simplified acquisition, or even actually like a sole source contract. So, getting your certification, like your SDVOSB, woman-owned, 8A certification, HubZone certification, all those things will allow you to be kind of fast-tracked into, that contracting officer's purview. So if you've already done business with them, if you've already communicated with them, even if you met them at an industry day or a networking event, it's really important to keep those communications going, because then you might not have to bid on anything. You may just really be supplying numbers, and that's way better than going out there and looking at solicitations that have already been in the free world, and you're one of many who has bid on stuff. Now, I will say there are a lot of solicitations that there's not a lot of bids on them, but if we're talking about just building the relationships and getting something sole source, or if you're able to get some sort of, continuous micro purchases, say you sell a product, then that's just keeping the lights on, right? That's keeping things going. That's keeping revenue coming in. That's a great thing. You want to get to that point where you don't have to bid on stuff, and you are a preferred, on the federal side, you're a preferred contractor that the contracting officer wants to work with on a regular basis. And it's justified because either you're the only person that does it in that area, you're the only person that does that service, period, or sells that product, period, like say you have a patent or something like that, or if you're the only person that has the 8A in that area. And it's a lot easier for the contracting officer to sole source you something 8A. Way easier on the Veteran Affairs to issue you something as a sole source if you have your SDVOSB. So it's really, really important to get to a point where, okay, I don't want to bid anymore. Like, bidding is very, very cumbersome, but you may still have some flavor of bidding, but it won't exclusively be just bidding. You want to get to a point where you're preferred. So that's, more the federal side. It's really similar on the local side. There is sole sourcing on the local government. So if you're talking about your state, your county, your city, your school system, all these agencies under the umbrella of your state, there are plenty of sole source opportunities, and they may actually say it. I've gotten notifications for the state of Georgia where intent to sole source, because this specific company is the only one that provides this type of education service. And so you can actually contact your whatever agency you're targeting, or whatever agency you just happen to see a solicitation on, let's just say, the state of Georgia website. And you're like, okay, I see that this solicitation is about to close tomorrow, or it already closed, but it's something I do, like say litter pickup. You can just contact that contracting officer and say, hey, I saw that you had something. Did you sole source anything like this? Or do you have anything coming up that you need a sole source? I'm already registered as a DBE or a local small business certification for that specific state or that specific county or that city, you may already be registered as, a certified company, minority company or supplier, and they're like, oh, well, actually we do. We need to fulfill this supplier diversity goal for this, this type of thing. Thank you for calling. Yes, we would like to sole source this thing to you. So you're trying to get to a point by building these relationships and making these essentially warm calls to agencies to see what they have available. The worst they can say is, don't ever call my phone again, or they won't answer. You just have to get past that point. To me, that's a lot easier than actually, doing a cold call to a customer or on a residential side or commercial side. Because if you think about it, if you're looking at a solicitation that's already been closed and you're just asking, hey, I'm not asking about this solicitation, I'm asking if you actually do this for, are you going to do this in the future? Then you're able to, get that in. And then with that in, if that contracting officer or contract specialist or whoever they are, if they're willing to have that conversation with you, then you know that they're probably going to be a warm lead moving forward. You can do follow-up emails every 90 days or every quarter or every month, really, just to see, here's Foresight Industries' latest accomplishments. Here's our capability statement in case you lost it. We are very interested in the following 3 competencies: litter pickup, janitorial, and landscaping. Please let us know how we can assist your agency. And you always want to make sure that you're leading with what benefits them. Best you can. Do not brag on your company. You're going to give them the accomplishments. Foresight Industries just won a contract for landscaping for South Georgia. We would love to be able to provide that same service for your county. Do you have anything like that that's available? And they might say yes, and they might sole source that to you, or they might at least invite you to something that wasn't already put on the website. So just something to think about when it comes to getting past the point of just bidding. It doesn't have to be that, go out there and just bring everybody donuts and the contracting officers. Yeah, you can do that too. It may be semi-effective, but also, if you're doing stuff behind the computer, it's reaching out and staying at top of mind. I've gone to conferences like the FEMA conference where, this contracting officer, and this is way back at the beginning of my journey, and the contracting officer said that, there was a particular gentleman, I can't remember what service he provided, but he used to reach out every month, once a month, and just say, hey, you got anything for me? Here's my capability statement again. So when that thing came out, like say 8 months later, he was at the top of her mind, and she said she appreciates that because that's less work for them. If you think about it, that's less work for the contracting officer to put something out, especially if it's federal and they're doing the sources side. The sources side is trying to find out who is available. That means they probably don't have anyone that can provide that service. So you're making it easier for them by saying, hey, I'm here. I do this thing. Give me the work. Give me the contract. Give me the contract, or at least let me know how I can put my best foot forward to get the contract. So you're being proactive and you're going in front of it. Because once the solicitation comes out, you are not supposed to communicate with the contracting officer. So you'll see something and you're like, oh my goodness, it's due in 2 weeks. The date for questions has already passed, but I have questions. Like, do you provide, am I able to get something else? Do you have anything else like this? Technically, they're not supposed to communicate with you unless you are putting in a bid. So it's kind of tricky with the timing. So it's better to be ahead of something so they won't necessarily need to put it out, or maybe they'll just, give you another way to present your quote or your pricing or your services. And so if they put it out and nobody responds, then, that's a whole other thing. But the point is to get to a point where you're getting handed these contracts, hand over fist. You don't have to bid. They're just like, hey, we just need you to give me your number. And basically it's yours as long as we can make the numbers work. So get to a point where you don't have to bid on contracts. And that's at the federal level and the local level. Similarly with corporate, where a lot of times with corporate, you also have that contract forever. And that's fact. And unfortunately, that's kind of rough for the little guys because they will usually keep the same contractor for years and years and years. So it's not easy for you to get in if they're not trying to let other companies in. That's also on the flip side. If you become one of those contractors that have the contract forever, of course, that's great for you and your company. But really, it's, reaching out to those agencies as well and just make sure you're doing your research. I hear this all the time, and I heard this. I remember how it sounded when I first started in my business and in government contracting is do your research on the company. And I can't express that enough, because you don't need to be like an expert in the company, but it's more like understanding what they buy. If you have something that's not just like, you know that they're probably going to need, like janitorial is pretty much every company is pretty much going to need that. But if you provide like some sort of IT service, but come to find out that company outsources it, and they've outsourced it and they don't want anything different, and they're not looking for a contractor to come in and provide that service, or they do it in-house, then you're, you know, essentially wasting your time by telling them, oh yeah, we provide this software as a service, and then that shows that you did not do research on their company. So and it makes them kind of upset, because it's different than the government. These are, you know, actual companies where sometimes you might be talking to president or the CEO or, you know, the owner, and these are, you know, semi-large companies. So it's really, really important to just kind of understand what they buy. And usually on these corporate websites, they will list what we buy. Do business with us. You'll see sentences like that. Supplier registration, vendor registration. You'll see the process that it takes in order for you to do business with them. So follow what they say, like learn about what it is. It usually doesn't take more than a few minutes to read what their company is about, what they're trying to do. And then you can maybe send a follow-up message and say, hey, I've registered on your website. I wanted to include my capability statement again for you to see, and then follow up with them every month or every quarter, or however you need to do it in order to get some feedback. So, you know, just making sure that you guys know that there's more than one way to get to contracts. You don't necessarily always have to bid, but you have to be able to get out of your shell and communicate with people, even if it's communicating behind the computer, because I get it. Sometimes you're not a people person, or you're not, you know, in-person person for whatever reason, you're introvert, but you really need to find a way to communicate with people, or you can hire someone who can be that conduit between you and a potential client. So, of course, those who are not familiar with my circle community, please check it out. The link is in the description. We have hundreds of people in there who are sharing information and sharing resources and will be a veteran. So I want to offer this to all of my veterans for discount on the course. So please make sure that you reach out if you have any questions, if you want to schedule a consultation. The link is also in the description, and you can schedule a strategy session if you are already in business, but you just need a little bit of assistance of what the next steps are. Just make sure you reach out. So until then, it's your favorite veteran.